Have you ever wondered why you feel out of place in a world that calls itself awake yet moves as if asleep? Why your presence unsettles rooms, why your silence sounds louder than noise, why your pain goes unseen and still leaves traces in the invisible? Hear this. You did not find this message. It found you. That shiver along your spine, the sudden brightness behind your ribs, the sense that something ancient is about to rise. This is not randomness. It is alignment. It is memory stirring because the scribe of the unseen has turned a page with your name upon it. The ancients called him Thoth, keeper of sacred measure, master of the living word, guardian of codes hidden in plain sight. Tonight, his ink is your breath, his tablet is your field, and his decree is simple. You were never ordinary. You were marked. Look at your hands. Perhaps you have noticed the faint carving of an M in your palm lines, or felt a magnetic pull toward the crescent moon, as if that curve recognized you before you learned your own name. These are not superstitions. They are signatures. In the language of symbols Thoth uses to cross centuries, they remind you that your soul arrived bearing mission wrapped in memory. You feel deeply because you are tuned differently. You read rooms before words arrive because your field has always been conversant with subtext. For years, maybe lifetimes, you doubted this. You kept still what you could not yet explain. You wore masks to pass as safe. You mistook hibernation for weakness, latency for confusion, hiddenness for delay. But you were not behind, you were protected. Thoth does not waste ink. When his quill touches a life, it records truth and restores order. He weighs the heart against the feather of Ma'at, not to punish, but to free it from what is false. If your pulse quickens now, breathe and name what you feel. This is the first act of sovereignty, to remain present in your own body while the message arrives. Because the ache you carry has a ledger, patterns repeat not by cruelty of fate but by resonance. Reality responds not to what you want but to what you emit. Your field, shaped by childhood imprints, ancestral grief, collective noise, has been writing outcomes in your name. Here is the first liberation. The field is not who you are. It is what you emit, and what is emitted can be rewritten. First, expose the quiet theft around which your exhaustion orbits. Not every wound bleeds. Not every thief uses hands. You have felt it. The heaviness that settles after polite conversations, the agitation that clings to certain rooms, the hollow that follows the endless scroll of borrowed chaos. This is energy exchange without consent. Those with bright fields often become conduits for what others refuse to process, not from malice, but from spiritual starvation. Thoth's gift is discernment, to audit your exchanges and close what leaks. You were not born to be a sponge. You were born to be a frequency. A sponge absorbs, a frequency orders. Let this sentence etch itself inside you. Thoth's teaching begins where all true magic begins, presence and intention. Presence is not passivity. It is return, the courageous re-entry of your soul into the house of your body until the moment becomes solid ground. Intention is not wishfulness. It is command, the clean line your spirit draws through noise. Presence is the tablet. Intention is the quill. Together they inscribe new law into your field. Try it. Place your hand over your heart, breathe, feel the warmth. In one clear sentence, choose what you will emit: protection, clarity, truth, mercy. Do not bargain or beg, record it. This is Heka, the living word Thoth entrusted to those who remember. Speech as energy, language as architecture, sound as signature. When the quill touches the tablet, the field begins to reorganize. Yet the scribe will always send you back to the temple beneath all temples, your body. It has translated your unsung prayers for years. The knot in your throat is a sentence never finished. The weight on your shoulders is a task you never chose. The tightness in your chest is love rationed by fear. Energy unexpressed does not vanish. It calcifies. The body whispers, then shouts, not to betray you, but to keep the ink from drying upon a lie. Meet your tension with presence, not panic. With reverence, not rage. Tears, tremors, spontaneous movement may come. Do not pathologize release. This is Ma'at returning. Balance reclaiming the lines. There is a force that completes all inscriptions, dissolving shadow without warfare. and restoring what centuries of fracture tried to erase. Love, not the fragile script of unmet expectation, but the highest code of divine intelligence. Love is not merely a feeling. It is a tone that commands order. Under its note, the body softens, the mind clears, the field coheres. Parts of you long separated remember they are one architecture. Then the effortless begins, rooms clear before you speak. Mismatched energies step back. What your soul has awaited finds you without strain. You become a tuning fork for what is real. This is why Thoth stands in the doorway of your remembrance. Awakening without measure becomes noise, and power without word becomes chaos. The scribe's vow is to record truth and restore order, beginning with the honesty few accept. Every thought you send must first pass through you. Envy wounds the sender. Bitterness corrodes its host. Destructive intention harms the hand that hurls it before it touches any target. The universe does not answer the image you curate. It answers the vibration you are. You cannot falsify the ledger, but you can rewrite it. If something in you recognizes this, anchor the beginning with a single seal. Write "I feel it" and let that small inscription mark your page. From here we will move in chambers, reveal the invisible prison of borrowed beliefs, seal the leaks, train presence and intention, heal within the body, tune the field to love, and then bridge it all into matter with the simplest allies: water, sound, light, color, crystal, not as crutches but as mirrors. No intermediaries between you and source, only resonance and responsibility. Imagine a space with no walls, no ceiling, no visible borders, yet it is always around you and moves wherever you go. You cannot see it with your eyes, but you feel it the way you feel a room when someone steps in with fury or with peace. That space is your vibrational field. Think of it as a living tablet. On it, lines are written every time you think, speak, breathe with meaning, or carry a feeling long enough that it gains weight. The ancients named the keeper of this tablet Thoth, the scribe who records, the measurer who restores order, the master of the living word that shapes invisible architecture. In simple terms, your life is not obeying what you wish randomly. It is answering what your field broadcasts. The universe listens to tone more than to sentences. It answers resonance. This is why some doors open easily for certain people while others feel like pushing stone. It is not favoritism, and it is not a curse. It is inscription. When you carry fear like a coat, rooms treat you as if you are cold. When you carry trust, rooms meet you with shoulders open. Consider a day when you woke already irritated. The smallest delay becomes an offense. The kindest face looks suspicious, and even a gift feels like a trick. What changed the world that day? Not the world. Your tone changed and the world mirrored it. Thoth would say the line on the tablet thickened in a certain ink, so events that matched that ink recognized you as theirs. If this is true when we are moody for a morning, imagine the force of beliefs carried for years, many of them not even yours. Childhood warnings, ancestral grief, collective anxiety, inscriptions that learned to write in your name. Here lies the first honesty and the first freedom. The field is not who you are. It is what you emit. This difference changes everything. If the field were your identity, you would be trapped. If it is your emission, you can recalibrate. Recalibration is not a complex ritual. It is a return to authorship. Thoth's quill is a symbol of that authorship. The quill does not ask permission from the old line to write a new one. It simply writes with a cleaner hand. To begin, you do not need to identify every belief that pressed itself into you. You need only to become present and intentional long enough that the new ink outweighs the old. Presence means your soul is at home in your body, eyes noticing, breath steady, feeling what you feel without running. Intention means you choose a tone, a simple, clean sentence that tells your field where to aim. I am safe. I am clear. I am protected. I am loved. And I love. But if it is that simple, you might ask, why do patterns keep repeating? Because inscriptions layer. A light pencil stroke does not erase an old carving. You do not fight the carving. You overwrite it with patient clarity until the carving fades under a stronger line. Think of a choir. If only one voice sings a new melody while 10 voices sing the old will still dominate. But as more voices join the new, the room changes. Your thoughts, words, and embodied feelings are those voices. One day of choosing peace cannot silence 10 years of rehearsed fear, but one day can begin a new rehearsal. Rehearsals become performances. Performances become habits. Habits become signatures. Signatures shape outcomes. This is the grammar of resonance. Thoth's measure, Ma'at, enters here. In myth, the heart is weighed against a feather. In practice, your heart is weighed against truth. Truth is not drama. It is balance. When you say no more self-betrayal, the scale moves. When you speak, my field is closed to what drains and open to what nourishes, the scale corrects. Notice we are not begging the universe. We are measuring ourselves. The world reflects that measure. This is why pretending never works for long. You can rehearse confident words while your body trembles, and your field will broadcast the tremble. You can smile while you resent, and your field will broadcast the resentment. The scribe does not record the mask. He records the tone beneath it. This is not punishment. It is mercy. If the universe replied to masks, we would be trapped in performances. Because it replies to tone, you are free to drop the act and tune the instrument. Plain enough for a child, your field is a radio. Every thought and feeling is like turning the dial a little. If you want a station of kindness but the dial remains on anger, you will not hear kindness clearly. The music hisses and crackles. Good songs arrive, but you call them accidents because you keep slipping back to the old station. The fix is not to shout at the radio or break it. The fix is to turn the dial and keep it there until the song becomes familiar. How do you hold the dial? With small practices that return you to the same tone many times a day. Thoth's quill writes one line at a time, not 1,000 at once. Here is a gentle beginning you can do anywhere. First, name the current station honestly. I am anxious. I am heavy. Do not pretend. Pretending keeps the needle stuck. Second, place one hand on your heart and one on the lower belly. Breathe in for a slow count of 4, hold for 4, out for 6. Repeat 3 times. This pattern tells your body, the scribe is here. The writing is safe. Third, speak a single clean sentence of the station you choose. I choose calm. I choose clarity. I choose protection. Then move your shoulders, jaw and hands, small movements, so the body feels the sentence rather than only hearing it. We are not charming fate, we are instructing the field. The instruction is gentle and consistent, not loud and desperate. Loudness is often fear in costume. You will notice resistance. Old inscriptions try to assert themselves. This will not work. You are late. You always fail. When they arise, do not wrestle. Imagine you are the librarian of your own temple. You take the old scroll, read its first line, and stamp it archived. Place it on a shelf for history, not for lore. Then pick up the new scroll and read it aloud. If tears come, allow them, old ink dissolving. If the body trembles, allow it, the stone releasing the carving. If nothing dramatic happens, do not call it failure. The quill is moving even when the chapter is not yet visible. The cleanest changes often look quiet. What about other people's fields? You will meet rooms where the air feels heavy, conversations that pull, spaces that hum with tired music. Thoth's discernment teaches you to audit exchange before you enter deeply. Ask inwardly, does this strengthen or drain? If it drains, shorten the exchange, slow your breath, and keep one sentence pulsing inward. Close to drain, open to light. Place the tongue softly on the roof of the mouth and relax the shoulders. This posture signals to your nervous system that you are inside your body and not a loose thread in the wind. If you must remain, imagine your skin as fine linen soaked in clear water. Fog may touch it, but it will not stick. You are not a stone in the river to be eroded. You are the current choosing direction. Some will ask, is this not selfish? Balance is never selfish. When your field is clear, your presence helps without depletion. You stop feeding chaos with attention and begin to feed order by example. This is how the chosen serve. Not by becoming a battery for every hungry device, but by becoming a tuning fork that teaches matter to remember harmony. The letter M in your palm and the crescent that calls to you are reminders of lunar intelligence, cyclical, measured, luminous. The moon does not apologize for waxing when it must wax or waning when it must wane. It obeys measure. Obeying measure is not rigidity. It is ma'at, right proportion. In right proportion, giving and receiving breathe like two lungs. In distortion, one lung tries to breathe for the other and both suffocate. Not all battles scream. Some happen in the softest rooms, at polite tables, inside messages that look harmless, within glances that carry a hunger they themselves do not understand. You know this because you have walked into spaces where the air felt suddenly heavier, left conversations that seemed friendly, yet carved a hollow under your ribs, scrolled through a handful of images and emerged inexplicably tired, as if your soul had been asked to pay a bill no one mentioned. This is energy theft, not a melodrama, not an accusation, but a simple audit of exchange. In the cosmology of Thoth, the scribe who records and the measurer who restores order, every exchange is a line in a ledger. If you leave an interaction poorer in clarity, breadth, or dignity than when you entered, the line is red. If you leave steadier, clearer, more yourself, the line is black. The chosen learn to read this ledger without panic, without blame, and most importantly, without continuing to write debt with their own hand. Begin with the body, because the body keeps the cleanest records. Energy theft rarely starts with a dramatic event. It usually begins as a pattern your nervous system knows before your mind admits it. Notice your first 2 minutes in a space. Does your jaw subtly clench? Do your shoulders rise? Does your breath migrate to the top of your chest? These micro-shifts are the way your field signals that it is bracing for a pull. Thoth's counsel is not to harden, but to measure. Measurement returns proportion. Proportion returns choice. Before words are traded, let your spine lengthen a fraction. Soften the tongue against the roof of the mouth. Widen your peripheral vision so you see more of the room than the person. This simple geometry tells your field, I am inside, and I decide. Ordering your stance is not aggression. It is authorship. Understand the mechanics. Bright fields conduct. People underfed at the level of source instinctively lean into conductors. They are not malicious so much as starved. The problem is not that they need warmth. The problem is that you have been trained to be a furnace without a thermostat. Thoth's measure gives you one. Ask silently, even while you smile. Is this reciprocal? Is this strengthening? If the answer is no, lower the intensity of your attention by 10 degrees. Attention is nourishment. Thieves feed where you stare. Shift your gaze to the middle distance. Shorten sentences. Let silence do more work than explanation. Economy is a shield. The scribe writes fewer lines when the page is not worthy of a paragraph. There are rooms, however, where the pull persists. Familial tables, professional corridors, shared obligations. Here, shielding must be consecrated, not improvised. Consider 3 layers. First, breath as boundary. Inhale for 4, exhale for 8, as if you are on a long corridor that empties the lungs of old conversations. The longer exhale signals to your system that you are not a prey animal in tall grass. Second, posture as perimeter. Sit or stand with the heart center slightly angled, not closed, simply not square on, so your field distributes impact rather than absorbing it head-on. Third, phrase as seal, not shouted, not performed, but settled inward like a weight on a scale. A phrase of measure, clean and spare, for example. By measure and word, I close what drains and keep what nourishes. This is not theatre. It is a line entered into the ledger that your field understands as policy. The digital world demands its own audit. Social channels are altars of unprocessed emotion. Every scroll can be a tiny open window where winds enter uninvited. The rule is not abstinence. It is curation. Choose windows like a librarian chooses rare books, by relevance, by condition, by truth. Before opening a platform, set a minute limit and a theme. Enter with a question you actually care to answer, not as a refuge from feeling. If you catch yourself adopting faces, speeds, and appetites that are not your own, close the window. Thoth's pen stops when the page is counterfeit. The ledger does not reward time spent in rooms that imitate rooms. In relationships, theft often hides inside noble words: loyalty, sacrifice, empathy. Loyalty without measure becomes self-betrayal. Sacrifice without measure becomes performance. Empathy without measure becomes absorption. The chosen are not called to be sponges. They are called to be frequencies that order a space by existing within it. A frequency does not argue, it tunes. Tuning does not require volume. It requires steadiness. When a conversation leans into extraction, endless crisis loops, demand disguised as confession, offer proportion. Answer with pace, not rush. With clarity, not excess. With presence, not porousness. If a boundary is tested, name it once, and then act in accordance with it. Repetition is rarely kindness. It is often leakage. Measure spoken without action teaches your field that your word is decoration. Measure spoken with action teaches your field that your word is law. There is also the subtle siphon of environments whose architecture disrespects your nervous system. Fluorescent light that never rests, noise that never yields, schedules that flatten you into hours instead of allowing you to be a person inside time. You cannot always leave, but you can restore ratio. Bring one element that answers the wound of the place. If the light is harsh, carry a small source of warmer light for your station. If the sound is relentless, use a single tone, sung under your breath or hummed, to give your body a line to follow. If the schedule is a grid, insert a brief breath ritual between blocks, so your field learns that transitions are real and not a smear of tasks. This is not preciousness. It is engineering. Thoth is the patron of scribes and architects, alike because both know that form is not decoration but discipline. What of chords and attachments? The invisible threads people speak, of when they describe lingering pulls long after a bond is cut. Treat chords like outdated contracts, not enemies. The more you fight a chord, the more you feed it with attention. The more you starve it of narrative, the more it dries and falls away. Approach it as Thoth would. Read the terms, see where you signed without understanding, and issue a revision. Replace vows like "I will carry your pain so you can love me" with clauses like "I honor what is mine to hold" and "I release what is not." Then act accordingly. Do not check the door you just closed to see if it stayed closed. Doors stay closed when the house behind them is rearranged. The moon, the arc of the crescent that has called to your palm and your memory, can be used as calendar for maintenance. On waning days, reduce exposure, archive old threads, clean the ledger, unsubscribe, unfollow, unpeople please where it became a reflex. On waxing days, invite strengthening influences, literature that feeds, music that clears, conversations that return you to yourself. Lunar rhythm is not superstition. It is humane pacing, a refusal to live in permanent noon. Those marked to remember often need to learn dark's generosity again. Rest as discipline, quiet as instrument, retreat as recalibration rather than collapse. Water, sound, color, and crystal, Thoth's simple allies, belong here not as talismans of fear but as mirrors that reinforce policy. Water receives command. A glass held in both hands while breath slows becomes a short, wordless meeting in which the body understands it is being cared for. Sound reorganizes clutter. One pure tone, sustained softly, can gather your field like a shepherd gathers stray sheep. Color instructs mood. A garment or light with the hue you associate with steadiness reminds your nervous system that it has a home. Crystals used with measure do not do it for you. They host a stable frequency your field can imitate while it remembers its own. The rule is always proportion. The tool serves the sovereign, not the other way around. Some theft is ancient, woven through lineage, scripted as duty. You may be the first in your line to say, "This ends with me." Expect turbulence when you change an inherited policy. Households, visible and invisible, resist new constitutions. Do not answer resistance with volume. Answer with continuity. Keep your rituals simple enough that you will actually do them. Keep your phrases short enough that they remain sentences and never become spells you do not believe. Keep your exits clean enough that they are exits and not performances staged for applause. The field learns by what you repeat with sincerity, not by what you dramatize once. Power does not begin in distant temples. It begins in the square inch of awareness you reclaim right now. Presence is the act of returning to yourself so fully that the moment stops being a corridor you rush through and becomes ground you can stand on. Intention is the clean line you draw across that ground. In Thoth's language, presence is the tablet, the surface where truth can be written, while intention is the quill, the focused stroke that inscribes new law into your field. Without the tablet, the quill scratches air. Without the quill, the tablet gathers dust. Together they turn experience into authorship. Presence is not stiffness. It is inhabiting your body with kindness. You notice the breath without forcing it, the weight of your feet without judging it, the rhythm of your heart without dramatizing it. This soft occupation quiets the static that thieves use as entry. When you are present, you do not vanish into other people's storms. You remain a weather of your own. Thoth weighs hearts, not performances. The present heart, however imperfect, is always lighter than the absent one pretending to be fine. In presence, you hear the difference between the thought that protects and the thought that punishes, and you choose the lighter feather. Intention is not a wish. It is a decision spoken in simple language your nervous system can obey. The ancients called it heka, living word. The most effective intention is brief and embodied, a sentence you could carve into stone. I choose clarity. I keep proportion. I return to truth. These are not slogans. They are coordinates. When stated from presence, they organize the room inside you. Muscles adjust, breath lengthens, the gaze steadies. The field receives instruction and begins to match it. If presence anchors, intention orients. One without the other either drifts or clenches. Together, they move like oar and rudder. Make it ordinary enough to repeat. Before you enter a meeting, pause a heartbeat to arrive in your body. Feel the weight of your hands. Soften the tongue. Widen your view. Then give one sentence to your field, no flourish, no bargaining. While washing dishes, turn the work into rhythm and let a single intention ride the rhythm. While walking, let your heel to toe become a metronome for the word you chose. This is not superstition. It is nervous system literacy. Repetition teaches the choir of your thoughts to follow a new melody without you needing to shout at them. Resistance will visit, wearing familiar voices, too simple, too late, not you. Measure them the way Thoth would measure a claim, by proportion and result. Does the thought steady your breath, clarify your choices, restore your dignity? Then it is fit to inscribe. Does it shrink you, confuse you, make you betray yourself to belong? Archive it. Presence lets you hear the audition. Intention casts the part. You are not fighting the old script line by line. You are staging a different play and inviting your body to recognize the set. There is a quiet test of mastery. Can you hold presence and intention while encountering someone else's intensity without absorbing it? Begin small. Keep part of your attention on the sensation of your hands while listening. Let your intention sit like a stone in a bowl of water. There, steady, not thrown. If the other person's tide rises, you need not build a wall. You keep the stone. Their water can move. Your center remains. Over time, this steadiness becomes legible to others. Some relax in it. Some resist it and step back. Both outcomes protect order. Tools can assist but never replace you. A tone hummed softly helps your breath keep time with your intention. A color you associate with stability reminds your senses of home. A glass of water held for a moment receives the calm you're choosing and returns it when you drink. These are mirrors, not engines. The engine is the scribe within. The part of you that remembers no mediator stands between your soul and source. Presence and intention do not make life frictionless. They make you legible to yourself. You begin to trust your own signals, to cut fewer bargains against your own knowing, to speak less and mean more. Rooms stop deciding your temperature. You carry a climate, and in that coherence, your field becomes a place where truth can land and grow. From here, the path turns to the oldest sanctuary of all, the body that has been keeping your minutes and your myths. Before any cathedral was built, you were given a sanctuary with doors that open from the inside. Your body is not a machine to be bullied into performance. It is a temple that records truth with exquisite accuracy. It remembers what the mind edits out. It archives what the mouth could not say. In Thoth's terms, the body is the inner scriptorium where every unstated sentence dries into ink unless you return to dissolve it. This is why symptoms arrive like marginal notes. A knot in the throat for words aborted, a weight across the shoulders for burdens accepted without consent, a tightness in the chest for love rationed, a churn in the gut for fear swallowed whole. Energy that is not expressed does not disappear. It calcifies. Calcification is not failure. It is a bookmark begging you to re-enter the page and write the missing line. Somatic alchemy begins with permission. Not to dramatize, but to feel without negotiation. Sit or stand with both feet meeting the ground. Let your eyes settle somewhere soft. Widen peripheral vision until you sense the room, not just your thoughts. Place one hand on your heart, one on your lower belly. Let the breath arrive as it is. Your task is not to manufacture calm, but to receive what is present. When sensation surfaces, heat, pressure, buzzing, name it in simple language, warmth, tight, flutter. Naming is a kindness that tells the nervous system it is being witnessed. Thoth weighs hearts, not speeches. The honest heart grows lighter the moment it is measured. Then invite movement, small and dignified. Let the jaw loosen as if unhooking a clasp. Roll the shoulders half circles, not as exercise but as punctuation. Commas, in a long sentence the body was forced to hold without air. Rock gently from heel to toe until the ankles remember they belong to you. If tears come, allow them. They are old ink liquefying. If trembling begins, give it room. Tremor is stone releasing carving. There is no need to narrate the release. In the scriptorium, the best edits are quiet. Sound is the quickest chisel. A single hum, continuous, comfortable, vibrates tissue that language cannot reach. Choose one tone and let it thread through the area that calls for attention. Sound does not argue. It organizes. Water is its companion. Sip slowly as if conversing. Feel the temperature, the weight, the descent. Water conducts intention. Without words, it tells tissue. We are flushing what has overstayed. Light and color complete the triad. Close your eyes and wash the tense region with a shade you associate with balance. Many feel steadiness in deep indigo or soft gold. Choose your own ma'at. These are not costumes. They are instruments that carry measure into matter. Touch can be a scriptural act. Lay your palm over the place that speaks the loudest and apply pressure just enough to be felt. Imagine the hand as Thoth's quill, present, precise, unhurried. Do not demand release. Offer proportion. Often the body does not need you to pry. It needs you to stop leaving. Stay long enough to feel a change in texture, from sharp to dull, from rigid to buoyant, from hot to warm. These micro-shifts are paragraphs turning. When they arrive, breathe once more and let the breath lengthen on the exhale, as if you are setting the new text to dry. Memory lives in posture. The collapsed chest of apology, the forward head of vigilance, the rigid spine of self-righteousness, each is an old doctrine taught to tissue. To revise doctrine, alter form with kindness. Imagine a thread lifting the crown of your head while your sit bones root. Let the sternum widen without jutting. Allow the pelvis to tilt until the lower back stops shouting. This is not posing. It is re-instruction. The temple's columns must bear weight in right proportion or the roof complains. When alignment returns, thoughts often improve without debate because the architecture no longer rehearses defeat. Pain has ethics. It is not an enemy to be conquered, but a witness to be heard. Ask your pain what job it has been performing. Protection, warning, remembrance. Thank it for the service, then offer a reassignment. You protected me by freezing. I protect me now by feeling and choosing. Do not expect immediate compliance. Old staff need training. Consistency persuades more than force. Meet the same ache with the same respectful protocol for a handful of days, and the ache will usually soften as a guard lowers a spear when a king finally returns. Movement larger than micro is sometimes required. Walk without phone or purpose beyond rhythm. Shake the limbs as animals do when a threat passes. Stretch in arcs rather than angles as if sketching crescent moons through air. Dance privately, without audience or performance, awkwardly if necessary, until breath and pulse agree on a tempo that feels like home. These acts do not burn calories of emotion. They complete loops the body had to interrupt to survive on schedule. There is a force that does not wrestle with shadow because it does not need to. It does not win arguments. It dissolves the need for them. The ancients called it many names, but under Thoth's ink it reads as a principle: love as order. Not romance, not performance, not appetite. Love as a tone that restores proportion wherever it sounds. When this frequency is present, the body softens as if remembering its original instructions. The mind stops grinding for control, and the field gathers itself into a clear geometry. You become coherent. Coherence is not an emotion. It is architecture. Why is love the master key? Because it is the only tone that can hold opposites without splitting. It allows grief to breathe without drowning hope, anger to speak without burning the house, boundaries to stand without hatred. In Thoth's terms, love is the script that keeps the ledger honest. It neither inflates debts with drama, nor erases them with denial. It enters the exact number, pays what is due, and closes the page. Under this tone, the nervous system stops scanning for danger every second and begins to search for accuracy. Accuracy is merciful. It tells each part of you the truth it needs to do its job. Coherence has signatures you can feel. Breath lengthens on its own. The exhale becomes heavier than the story. Sight widens. Colors regain temperature. Posture organizes without stiffness. The heart center is neither collapsed nor puffed, simply present. Thoughts change grammar from "what if I'm wrong" to "what is proportionate now," from "how do I make them see" to "what is mine to say and no more." Love is not the end of discernment. It is its refinement. The more coherent you become, the less you mistake noise for urgency, and the less you confuse urgency with truth. Because love is a frequency, it requires a carrier wave to enter matter. This is where Thoth's simple allies become bridges, mirrors that amplify the tone you choose without claiming authorship. Water remembers shape. Hold a glass with both hands for a few quiet breaths and let your attention settle in the center of the chest. Do not perform a ritual, offer presence. When you drink, attend to the descent. Imagine it rinsing corners your breath cannot reach. The point is not magic. It is communication. The body understands care through contact. Sound organizes clutter. A single note, hummed softly or played, can braid scattered thoughts into a rope strong enough to pull you back to center. Choose a tone you can sustain without strain and let it drift through areas of tightness. Sound does not negotiate with tension. It reorders it. Light and color instruct mood. Choose the hue that your system associates with balance. Perhaps deep indigo for clarity, soft gold for warmth, emerald for renewal, and let that color bathe your space or your inner sight for a minute. It is a gentle memo to your senses. We are safe enough to be precise. Crystals are stable signatures. Treat them as tuning forks, not engines. Place one where you work or rest, not as a talisman you beg, but as a reminder of steadiness while your field learns its own. If you notice yourself outsourcing responsibility to the stone, put it away for a week. Sovereignty first. Tools second. Movement locks coherence into tissue. After any inner shift, move. 3 slow stretches, a short walk, a minute of swaying in place, so the nervous system archives the new pattern in muscle and fascia, not only in thought. Architecture must be inhabited to hold. Lover's frequency has boundaries by nature. It does not allow the untrue to masquerade as compassion. It withdraws from dramas that demand a sacrifice of dignity to prove loyalty. It stops trying to rehabilitate what thrives on confusion. Measured love does not harden, it unconfuses. In the ledger, this looks like fewer explanations and cleaner choices. You may lose certain audiences. That is not failure. It is acoustics. Not every room is tuned to your note. Let mismatch be an honest distance rather than a war. A common doubt arises. If love is so powerful, why do old patterns return? Because coherence in a human is cyclical. Like the moon that marks your palm, there will be waxing days of lucid ease and waning days of fog. Under Thoth's measure, you do not call the fog a moral collapse. You treat it as weather. On fog days, decrease exposure, increase simplicity, and let small practices carry you. On clear days, strengthen architecture, sleep, nourishment, order, so that the next fog has fewer places to hide. The highest function of this frequency is integration. It stitches back parts of you that trauma separated for safety. The protector who learned to clench, the child who learned to vanish, the judge who learned to bark. Lover's order gives each a chair at the table and a new job description. The protector becomes a gatekeeper instead of a prison guard. The child becomes a censor for wonder rather than a hostage. The judge becomes a magistrate who weighs and releases rather than sentences and gloats. When these roles update, fatigue lifts because your inner staff is no longer working at cross purposes. There is a moment, after the ink dries and the room grows still, when you realize nothing essential was added to you, you were simply returned to yourself. Through these chambers, Thoth did not hand you a crown. He handed you a ledger and a quill. You learned that your world answers your field, that resonance outruns rhetoric, and that measure, Ma'at, is not severity but mercy. It frees you from the theatre of masks and anchors you in proportions that hold. The marks you carry, the M that threads your palm, the crescent that calls your memory, were never superstitions. They were reminders to read your life as text, not accident. We named the prison without walls, inscriptions inherited from family weather, ancestral storms, and the collective's low hum. We exposed the quiet economy of energy theft and exchanged martyrdom for jurisprudence. We practiced the ethics of presence and the clarity of intention, tablet and quill, so the field could be written anew without violence. We entered the temple of the body, where symptoms were marginalia asking for edits, and restored order with breath, movement, sound, and kindness. And we tuned to the only frequency capable of holding opposites without splitting, love as order, so that what was healed would remain coherent, not because we clutched it, but because the architecture now supports it. Nothing in this path required spectacle. The most consequential lines were written in ordinary rooms, a spine lengthened before a meeting, a single sentence spoken cleanly instead of 10 spoken anxiously, a glass of water held with attention. A tone hummed until the jaw forgot a decade of clench. Tools, water, sound, light, color, crystal, stood where they belong, not as engines to drag you forward, but as mirrors in which your sovereignty recognizes its own face. Even time became an ally, waxing for expansion, waning for archive, neither pace superior, both necessary, like breaths rise and fall. If doubt returns, and it will, because weather changes, measure it, do not dramatize it. Doubt asks, who are you to write law? The answer is as simple as it is unarguable. You are the one living in this body, carrying this field, paying the costs of every line left unedited. No mediator stands between your soul and source. Thoth's myth survives because it names a function in you, the scribe who records truth and restores order. To refuse that function is to outsource your authorship to noise. To accept it is to let your life become legible, to you first, then to the world. Legibility changes outcomes. Rooms de-escalate in your presence or step aside. Both responses are forms of respect. Relationships simplify. Those that cannot tolerate proportion recede without the warfare of performances. Those that breathe in order remain and grow. Work clarifies because attention stops hemorrhaging into defense. Creativity returns like a bird that finally trusts your hand as a perch. This is not luck. It is resonance attended to day by measured day. The marks of the chosen were never guarantees of ease. They were invitations to govern with kindness what others tried to control with noise. Governance is not dominion over others. It is fidelity to truth within your own borders. Fidelity looks like fewer apologies for being clear, fewer explanations to justify boundaries, fewer bargains against your own knowing. It sounds like sentences that fit on stone. It feels like breath that arrives without permission slips. So let this chapter close as it began, without performance, with precision. The page has been turned. The old lines remain in the archive where they belong. The quill is steady. The hand is yours. Walk as one who knows their field sings before they speak. Let your posture carry the memory of Ma'at. Your choices carry the economy of discernment. Your care for the body carry the humility of a temple tended daily rather than a monument visited rarely. Where love is the governance, order is the atmosphere, and freedom is not a slogan but a proportion kept. If this message resonated and you wish to continue this path with us, subscribe now so you won't miss the next chapter. Each layer builds on the last. Thank you for your presence. Until next time, walk gently, write clearly, and let your field sing before you speak.